She looked at his grease-stained hands and saw trash. He looked at her judgment and saw a test. What she didn't know. He wasn't just fixing that Ferrari. He owned the entire multi-million-dollar collection. In a split second, a simple act of arrogance triggers a chain reaction that exposes the brutal truth about how we treat the invisible people among us. We live in a world obsessed with status, where people judge the cover and burn the book without ever reading a page. It's a painful reality that leaves good people feeling small and kindness feeling like a weakness. But today, the script gets flipped. Enter Alexander, a billionaire CEO tired of fake smiles, disguising himself as a mechanic to find something real. And meet Julie, a struggling waitress who risks her only source of income to defend a stranger's dignity. This isn't just a love story, it's a collision of two worlds. We are promising you a journey of absolute vindication that will restore your faith in justice. But goodness attracts darkness. Before the triumph, you will witness a heart-wrenching frame-up, a crushing public humiliation, and a moment where all hope seems lost. It is a roller coaster of emotion that asks one question: does integrity still matter? If you believe that true worth isn't found in a bank account, but in the heart, then you have found your tribe. Smash that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications to join a community that values the soul over the suit. Let's prove that kindness still wins. Alexander Rhodes found a strange solace in the biting scent of grease and gasoline, a sharp contrast to the sterile, recycled air of his corporate boardroom. To the passing world, he wasn't a powerful CEO controlling a vast empire, he was just a man with oil-stained hands buried in the engine of a vintage Ferrari. It was a personal social experiment, a way to strip away the noise of his wealth, though today he was simply lost in the mechanics of the machine. He wiped his brow with a rag, leaving a streak of black oil across his forehead, completely unaware that a storm was clicking its heels toward him in expensive stilettos. He looked every bit the mechanic, and amidst his supercar collection, that was the only disguise he needed to feel human again. "Excuse me, you're ruining the aesthetic," a sharp voice sliced through the air, dripping with unmasked disdain. Alexander looked up to see a woman looking down her nose at him, her face twisted in absolute disgust. She didn't see a billionaire, she saw a dirty blemish on her perfect evening, a hindrance to be removed. "Guests are arriving for the gala, and we don't need the hired help looking like that," she sneered, gesturing vaguely at his dirty coveralls. It was a moment designed to make him feel small, a classic attempt to ensure he was humiliated by someone who believed status was written on clothing. She had no idea she was mocking the man who signed her paycheck. Alexander blinked, fighting the urge to laugh at the rich irony of the situation unfolding before him. He could buy the building she was standing in with the loose change in his pocket, but he kept his hidden identity locked down tight. "Just fixing a leak, ma'am," he mumbled, intentionally playing the part of the subservient worker to see how far she would go. He watched her expression shift from annoyance to pity, the kind of look reserved for stray dogs or broken things. It was a harsh reminder of how money often warped perception. He wasn't looking for vindication right now, he just wanted to finish the job. But she wasn't done, she wanted to make sure he knew his place. That's when Julie Dunn walked by, balancing a heavy tray of champagne glasses like a high-wire artist. She was running on fumes, double shifts catching up to her, but her eyes were sharp enough to spot the injustice happening in the corner. She saw the interaction, the way the woman loomed over the mechanic like a vulture picking at scraps. Julie knew what it felt like to be invisible, to be treated like furniture in a room full of inflated egos. Despite her own exhaustion, something in her snapped. She couldn't stand by and watch someone be bullied just because their hands were dirty. It was a moment of destiny, though neither of them knew it yet. "He's doing his job, just like the rest of us," Julie said, her voice shaking slightly but firm enough to cut the tension. She stepped between Alexander and the woman, a human shield made of sheer grit and empathy. The snob scoffed, looking Julie up and down, "And who asked the waitress?" But Julie didn't back down, anchoring herself in her values. "Civility is free," she shot back, a heart-touching display of integrity that silenced the hallway. Alexander looked up at her, really looked at her, and felt something shift in his chest. It wasn't just about the defense, it was the fact that she had nothing to gain. Don't judge a book by its cover, indeed. What one word defines Julie's attitude right now? Answer in the comments. The woman huffed, muttering about finding the manager to report this insolence, and stormed off, her heels clacking angrily against the marble floor. Julie let out a long breath, her shoulders sagging under the weight of the tray and the sudden adrenaline dump. She turned to Alexander, offering a tired, genuine smile that didn't care about his grime or his true worth. "Don't let her get to you," she whispered, handing him a clean napkin from her apron pocket. Alexander took it, stunned by the gesture. He had been searching for unconditional love in a world of transactions, and here was a spark of something real. He watched her walk away, realizing the game had just changed. But as Alexander watched Julie disappear into the crowd, a nagging thought clawed at the back of his mind. He had seen kindness before, but usually, it came with a price tag or an expectation of a return favor. Was this genuine, or was he just desperate to believe in something good? He looked at the grease on his hands and then at the napkin she gave him, a simple object that felt heavier than gold. He decided then and there that he couldn't just let this go. He needed to know if this compassion was a fluke or the real deal. He tightened the bolt on the engine, a plan forming in his head. The car was fixed, but his curiosity was just broken wide open. The crowd buzzed with the electric energy of high society, oblivious to the fact that the host was currently wiping motor oil off his face in the back room. Alexander Rhodes, the man everyone was dying to meet, was actually the man they had all ignored on their way in. It was the perfect setup for his social experiment, a test to see who people really were when they thought no one powerful was watching. As he scrubbed his hands, he looked in the mirror, seeing the reflection of a mechanic but knowing the reality of the billionaire beneath. This wasn't just a game, it was a necessary survival tactic in a world full of sharks.
His supercar collection was the centerpiece of the gala, a dazzling display of engineering and wealth that drew gasps from the elite guests. They cooed over the curves of the vintage Ferrari he had just been working on, praising its pristine condition while mocking the dirty worker who maintained it. The irony was thick enough to choke on. Alexander slipped into a side door, watching from the shadows as people postured and preened near his cars. It reinforced the cynical view that most people were essentially gold digger types, chasing the shine rather than the substance. But then, his mind drifted back to the waitress who had defended him. Maintaining this hidden identity was risky. If the board found out he was playing grease monkey instead of networking, stocks would wobble. But Alexander craved authenticity more than approval. He adjusted his coveralls, deciding to stay in character for the duration of the event. It gave him a unique vantage point and visibility. People said the most revealing things when they thought they were alone with the help. He heard whispers of deals, betrayals, and gossip that would never be spoken in his presence if he were wearing a tuxedo. It was intelligence gathering in its rawest form. However, the weight of the deception sat heavy on him. He wasn't lying to hurt anyone. He was lying to protect himself from being used. Yet, thinking of Julie, he felt a twinge of guilt. She had defended a lie, or at least a partial truth. She thought she was helping a downtrodden employee, not the CEO of the entire operation. If she found out, would she feel betrayed? Or would she understand the necessity of the mask? He watched her moving through the room, dodging groping hands and condescending remarks with a grace that impressed him. She was a warrior in an apron. If you were Alexander, would you reveal your identity now, or keep the disguise to test her character? Be honest. He decided to push the experiment further. He needed to verify if her kindness was a constant state of being or a fleeting moment of pity. He walked back out onto the floor, keeping his head down, blending into the background of labor that made the luxury possible. He saw the snobbish woman from earlier, Vanessa, holding court near a Lamborghini, laughing loudly at a joke that wasn't funny. The contrast between Vanessa's performative cruelty and Julie's quiet strength was jarring. It made Alexander question everything he thought he knew about value. The gala was in full swing, a symphony of clinking glasses and hollow laughter. Alexander felt like a ghost haunting his own life. He leaned against a pillar, watching Julie serve a table of demanding businessmen. She looked exhausted, a strand of hair falling out of place. but she kept smiling. It wasn't a fake customer service smile, it was a shield. He realized then that he wasn't just testing her, he was learning from her. She possessed a true worth that couldn't be quantified in stock options or real estate. She was rich in ways he was starving. But the night was far from over, and the dynamics of power were about to shift in ways neither could predict. Alexander saw a manager berating Julie for a mistake she clearly didn't make. His instinct was to storm over, fire the manager, and set things right with a wave of his hand. But he stopped himself. To intervene as the billionaire would ruin the test. To intervene as the mechanic might get them both kicked out. He had to watch, helpless in his disguise, as she swallowed the abuse and kept working. It was a lesson in humility he hadn't expected to learn, and it fueled a fire of indication that would burn slowly. The gala was a marathon success, and Julie Dunn was hitting the wall. Her feet throbbed in cheap shoes, and her throat was parched. But the rules were strict: staff could not drink in front of guests. She retreated to the loading dock for a breath of stale city air, clutching her only water bottle like a lifeline. That's when she saw him again, the mechanic. He was sitting on a crate, looking more exhausted than she felt, wiping grease from his hands with a weary slowness. To her, he wasn't a CEO or a billionaire. He was a fellow soldier in the trenches of service, beaten down by the same system. She didn't hesitate. Julie walked over, uncapping her water bottle. "You look like you need this more than I do," she said softly, extending the bottle toward him. It was a simple offering, but in the context of the night, it was monumental. Alexander looked up, surprised to see her again. He saw the fatigue etched around her eyes and knew that water was likely the only thing keeping her upright. "I can't take your water," he said, his voice rough. "You're working harder than anyone inside." It was a moment of heart-touching connection, stripped of all pretense. "Please," she insisted, pushing the bottle into his hands. "I've got another shift tomorrow. I'm used to it. You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." She didn't know how right she was. Alexander took a sip, the water tasting better than any vintage wine he had inside. This wasn't just hydration. It was a gesture of unconditional love for humanity, a signal that she cared about his well-being without knowing his status. Don't judge a giver by what they have, but by what they are willing to sacrifice. They sat in silence for a moment, the muffled sounds of the party drifting out from the museum. "Julie, by the way," she said, leaning against the wall. "Alexander," he replied, using his real name but hoping she wouldn't connect the dots to the building signage. "You really stood up to Vanessa earlier. You didn't have to do that." Julie shrugged, a small smile playing on her lips. Bullies thrive on silence. "I couldn't just let her treat you like dirt. We're all just trying to make a living, right?" Her words hit him like a physical blow. She saw him as an equal, like this video if you believe that kindness is the true sign of wealth. Alexander felt a pang of regret for deceiving her, but the social experiment was yielding results he couldn't ignore. "Do you like the cars?" he asked, pointing vaguely toward the museum. Julie's eyes lit up, transforming her tired face. "I love them, especially the Ferraris. My dad used to talk about the engineering behind them, how they're not just cars, but art. I'm actually saving up for engineering school, though it's taking a while." She laughed, a self-deprecating sound that hid a world of struggle. Here she was, a gold digger in reverse, someone working herself to the bone for a dream, not looking for a handout. Alexander listened, captivated. He could pay for her tuition with a signature, instantly changing her life. But he knew that writing a check now would cheapen the connection. He wanted to know the person, not just the problem. He wanted to see if this romance drama unfolding in his head had any basis in reality. He was falling, not for a face, but for a spirit. As Julie stood up to go back inside, dusting off her apron, Alexander felt a desperate need to keep her talking. "Hey," he called out. "Thanks for the water." "Seriously." She turned back, her silhouette framed by the harsh light of the doorway. "Us working class gotta stick together, Alexander. Hang in there." She winked and disappeared back into the lion's den. Alexander sat alone in the dark, clutching the plastic bottle, realizing that for the first time in years, he felt seen. Not as a billionaire, but as a man worthy of kindness. Alexander returned to the main hall, but his mind was entirely elsewhere. The interaction with Julie had shaken the foundation of his cynicism. He moved through the shadows of his own museum, observing the guests with new eyes. He saw the fake smiles, the calculated handshakes, the hungry eyes scanning for status. It was a social experiment playing out in real time, and the results were depressing, except for Julie. He made a firm decision he would maintain his hidden identity. He had to. Revealing himself now would ruin the purity of what was happening. He needed to test who valued him for his soul, not his bank account. He found himself drawn to where she was working, hovering near the buffer zone between the kitchen and the gala floor. He watched her handle rude guests with patience, navigate chaotic orders with precision, and still manage to offer smiles to her co-workers. It was a display of character that no MBA could teach. He was a CEO, accustomed to efficiency, but her resilience was something else entirely. It was the grit of survival. He wanted to be the mechanic in her eyes a little longer, to see the world from her perspective without the filter of his wealth. Still here? Julie's voice startled him. She had snuck up while he was pretending to inspect a tire on a vintage Ferrari. Yeah, boss says I gotta stay till cleanup. He lied smoothly. You? She sighed, leaning momentarily against a pillar, hidden from the manager's view. Double shift turned into a triple. Someone called out, "But hey, more tips, right?" She tried to sound optimistic, but the fatigue was etched deep. Alexander felt a surge of protectiveness. He wanted to whisk her away, tell her she never had to work again. But that was the billionaire talking. The man wanted to earn her trust first. You mentioned engineering earlier. Alexander probed. Wanted to peel back another layer. Is that the end game? Julie nodded, her eyes drifting to the engine of the Ferrari. Mechanical engineering. I want to understand how things work, how to fix them when they break. Kind of like you, I guess. She smiled at him, a genuine camaraderie that warmed his chest. But tuition is a nightmare. In barely making rent, let alone saving for a degree. It feels like a pipe dream sometimes. Her vulnerability was a gift, and he treated it with reverence. If you were in his shoes, would you tell the truth now to help her? Yes or no? Dreams have a way of working out if you're stubborn enough, Alexander said, offering a platitude that felt inadequate. Julie laughed softly. Stubbornness I have in spades. Money not so much, but I'm not looking for a handout. I just want a fair shot. Her words were a direct challenge to the gold digger narrative he had been fed by society. She didn't want his money, she wanted a chance. It made him respect her even more. It also made him realize how much true worth was wasted by a system that didn't look past a uniform. He watched her go back to work, a whirlwind of efficiency. He realized that the charade had a deadline. Eventually, the truth would come out. But for now, he was addicted to the honesty of their interactions. He was a mechanic, and she was the waitress, and in that space, they were equals. It was a rare, precious thing. He leaned against the Ferrari, the symbol of his success, and realized it meant nothing compared to the spark in her eyes. Don't judge a life by its bank balance. Judge it by the content of the struggle. But the night had eyes. Vanessa, the snobbish woman from the entrance, had been watching. She noticed the lingering glances, the whispered conversations between the help. Her eyes narrowed with malicious intent. She didn't like Julie too pretty, too defiant. And she certainly didn't like the grease monkey. Seeing them together gave her an idea, a way to clear the board of nuisance. Alexander was too distracted by his growing feelings to notice the predators circling. The romance drama was about to turn into a thriller. Later that evening, during a lull in the service, Julie found herself back at the loading dock, the unofficial break room for the invisible staff. Alexander was there, waiting, though he told himself he was just getting air. When she appeared, the air between them seemed charged, different. She slid down the wall to sit on a crate, and he sat opposite her. Rough night? He asked. The roughest, she admitted. Then, perhaps because he was a stranger, or perhaps because he felt safe, she opened up. She confided in him about her crushing financial struggles, the medical bills for her mother, and the dream of engineering that felt further away every day. I look at these cars, she whispered, gesturing toward the museum, and I don't see money. I see the pistons, the gears, the genius of it. I want to build things like that. But then reality hits, and I'm just serving champagne to people who don't even look at me. Alexander listened, his heart aching. He was sitting on a fortune that could solve every single one of her problems instantly. He was the billionaire who could change her destiny with a phone call. The urge to reveal his hidden identity was overwhelming. He could be her hero, but he held back. If he gave her the money now, the dynamic would shift forever. It would become a transaction, a debt. He wanted her to know him, Alexander, not the wallet. You have the mind for it, he said earnestly. I can tell by the way you talk about the engines. You see what others miss. Julie looked at him, surprised. You think? Most people just tell me to marry rich. She laughed bitterly, as if being a gold digger is a career path. I'd rather starve than sell my soul. Her integrity was blinding. Alexander felt a profound sense of unconditional love beginning to take root, not the romantic kind yet, but a deep, abiding respect for her spirit. You won't starve, he said intensely, and you won't have to sell anything. Talent like yours. It finds a way. He was making a silent promise to her, one she couldn't hear. He would ensure she got her shot, but it had to be done right. He wanted to be the mechanic who believed in her, not the CEO who pitted her. Would you accept financial help from someone who lied about who they are? Answer yes or no. Thanks, Alexander, she said, her eyes softening. It's nice to talk to someone who gets it, who understands what it's like to be at the bottom looking up. The irony stung him. He wasn't at the bottom, but he was currently feeling the weight of it through her. Maybe the view is better from down here, he mused. You see things clearer. She smiled, a real, dazzling smile that made the grime and exhaustion fade away. Maybe, but little AC wouldn't hurt. They shared a laugh, a moment of pure connection amidst the smell of exhaust and garbage. It was a scene from a romance drama, playing out in the least romantic setting possible. But for Alexander, it was perfect. He was falling for her resilience, for her dreams. He was collecting moments, not cars. True worth was sitting right in front of him, wearing a stained apron and cheap shoes. As she stood up to leave, she touched his arm lightly. You're a good listener, mechanic man. Don't let this place break you. She walked away, leaving a burning sensation where her hand had been. Alexander stared after her. He knew he was playing a dangerous game. If she found out he had the power to fix everything and did nothing, she might never forgive him. But he had to trust the process. He had to trust that the truth, when it came out, would set them free, not tear them apart. The atmosphere in the gala shifted from celebratory to predatory. Vanessa, the rival with a penchant for cruelty, had been observing Julie and Alexander with hawk-like intensity. To her, their camaraderie was an affront to the social order. She cornered the catering manager, a nervous man terrified of upsetting the guests. That waitress, Vanessa hissed, pointing a manicured finger at Julie. She's been fraternizing with the help. I saw her slacking off with that dirty mechanic outside. It's unprofessional and, frankly, disgusting. The manager paled. I'll handle it, ma'am. Vanessa wasn't satisfied with just a warning. She wanted blood. She wanted Julie fired. It wasn't just about the fraternizing. It was about the fact that Julie had dared to speak back to her earlier. It was about power. Vanessa watched with a smirk as the manager marched towards Julie, who was busy clearing a table. Alexander, from his vantage point near the vintage Ferrari display, saw the storm brewing. He saw Vanessa's smug expression and the manager's aggressive stride. Done, the manager barked. Julie flinched, nearly dropping a glass. Yes, I've had reports of you slacking off, fraternizing with the maintenance staff instead of serving guests. This is a high-end event, not a social club. Julie's face flushed with humiliation. I was on my break, she defended, her voice trembling but clear, and I wasn't slacking. I've been working this floor alone for an hour. The manager, under the watchful eye of Vanessa, didn't care about facts. Don't talk back. One more complaint, and you're out. Do you understand? Alexander clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white. The billionaire in him wanted to step forward and fire the manager on the spot, to ban Vanessa from the premises for life. But the social experiment held him back. If he stepped in now, he blew his cover. He had to trust Julie to handle it, painful as it was to watch. He saw Julie swallow her pride, nodding slowly. Understood, she whispered. It was a masterclass in composure. She was being humiliated, but she refused to give them the reaction they wanted. Like this, if you've ever had to swallow your pride to keep a job. Vanessa, watching from a distance, sipped her champagne, clearly disappointed that Julie hadn't made a scene. She wanted a spectacle. She wanted to prove that Julie was trash. But Julie simply turned back to her work, her head held high, though Alexander could see the shimmer of tears in her eyes. It broke his heart. This was the reality of the working class. He had romanticized it. It wasn't just hard work, it was constant vulnerability to the whims of the powerful. He moved closer to where Julie was working, whispering as she passed. "She's lying. I saw her set up." Julie paused, not looking at him, but he saw her nod imperceptibly. "I know," she murmured. "It doesn't matter. She has the power, I have the rent to pay." The stark reality of her words hit him. Power wasn't just money, it was the ability to inflict consequences. And right now, he was hoarding all the power while she suffered. The injustice burned inside him. Don't judge a person by how they treat their equals, but by how they treat those they deem beneath them. Vanessa had failed that test spectacularly. Julie had passed with flying colors. Alexander knew he couldn't let this stand. Karma was coming for Vanessa, and he would be the one to deliver it. But first, he had to make sure Julie survived the night. The game was no longer just an observation. It was a rescue mission. The night dragged on, tension thickening like smoke. Vanessa, unsatisfied with the manager's reprimand, decided to escalate. She orchestrated the situation, purposefully spilling her red wine on the floor near where Alexander was working, then calling Julie over. "Clean this up," she commanded, snapping her fingers. "And while you're at it, tell this filthy man to move. He smells like a gas station." It was a direct trap. She was pressuring Julie to insult Alexander, to choose her job over her integrity. Julie looked at the puddle of wine, then at Vanessa, and finally at Alexander. The mechanic looked down, playing his part, waiting to see what she would do. The manager was hovering nearby, watching. If Julie refused, she was fired. If she insulted Alexander, she kept her job. It was a cruel social experiment designed by a petty tyrant. The room seemed to go quiet, the air heavy with expectation. Alexander held his breath. He knew how desperate she was for money. He wouldn't blame her if she broke. But Julie Dunn was made of stronger stuff. She knelt to clean the wine, her movement precise and dignified. When she stood up, she looked Vanessa dead in the eye. "I'll clean the mess," she said calmly. "But I want to insult a man who is working just as hard as I am. He has every right to be here." The silence that followed was deafening. The manager gasped. Vanessa's face turned a violent shade of red. Julie had chosen her true worth over her paycheck. She had chosen unconditional love for a fellow human being over submission to a bully. In one word, how would you describe Julie's courage? Write it in the comments. "You are insolent," Vanessa spat. "I want her gone." She screamed at the manager, but before the manager could act, Alexander stood up. He didn't break character, but his presence suddenly felt massive. He caught Julie's eye and gave a subtle nod of respect. It was a silent communication, "I see you." Julie didn't back down. She stood her ground, a lone warrior against the weight of wealth and arrogance. It was a scene of pure vindication for every person who had ever been looked down upon. The manager, sensing the scene was causing a disturbance among other guests, tried to defuse it. "Go to the kitchen, Julie. Now." Julie turned and walked away, her dignity intact, leaving Vanessa fuming in her wake. Alexander watched her go, his heart pounding. He had witnessed unwavering integrity in the face of immense pressure. It was the most attractive thing he had ever seen. The romance drama was no longer a question. He was in love. He looked at Vanessa, who was now playing the victim to a group of sympathetic friends. The urge to destroy her was strong, but he needed the trap to snap shut completely. He needed undeniable proof of her malice to ensure that when the hammer fell, it fell forever. He went back to his engine, his mind racing. Julie was special. She was rare, and she was in trouble because of him. He knew the night wasn't over. Vanessa wouldn't stop until she had total victory. She was a gold digger status, hoarding power and crushing threats. But she didn't know she was poking a sleeping dragon. Alexander Rhodes, the CEO, was awake, and he was taking notes. The reckoning was approaching, and it would be biblical. The gala was winding down, the guests trickling out, leaving behind a mess of confetti and empty glasses. Alexander found Julie in the back parking lot, leaning against a dumpster, trying to catch her breath. The smell of oil and gasoline from the nearby generators mixed with the night air, a scent that now felt like home to him. "You okay?" he asked, approaching cautiously. She looked up, her eyes red-rimmed but dry. "I think I just lost my job," she said with a hollow laugh. "But at least I didn't lose my self-respect." Alexander stood next to her, shoulder to shoulder. "You were incredible in there," he said, his voice low and intense. Most people would have folded. Julie looked at him, and in the dim light, the barrier between them seemed to dissolve. "I couldn't do it to you," she admitted. "You didn't deserve that. Nobody does." A spark of romance formed between them, ignited not by candlelight or music, but by shared struggle and mutual respect. It challenged Alexander's cynical view of love. He had thought everyone wanted something from him. She just wanted him to be okay. "You know," Alexander said, turning to face her, "I've seen a lot of people in this town. Rich, powerful people. None of them have half the class you do." Julie blushed, looking down at her worn-out shoes. "Class doesn't pay the bills, Alexander." "Maybe not," he replied, daring to reach out and tuck a stray hair behind her ear. "But it's the only thing that matters in the end." The touch was electric. Julie looked up, her eyes searching his. For a moment, he wasn't a mechanic. He was just a man looking at a woman he admired deeply. Can love really survive if it starts with a lie? Yes or no? They stood there for a long moment, the tension shifting from stress to something softer, warmer. The billionaire forgot about his supercar collection, his meetings, his empire. All that existed was this woman, and the way she made him feel human. "I wish I could do more," he said, the double meaning heavy on his tongue. "You being there was enough," she whispered. "It's nice to know I wasn't alone." This was a turning point. Alexander knew he couldn't keep the lie going much longer. It was becoming unfair. But he also knew that the moment he revealed his hidden identity, this bubble of intimacy would burst. He wanted to hold on to it for just one more minute. He wanted to be the guy she liked for him, not the guy she liked for his vintage Ferrari. It was a selfish desire, but a powerful one. "I should get back," she said reluctantly, breaking the spell. "If I'm not fired yet, I still have cleanup." Alexander nodded, stepping back. "It'll be here," he promised. And he meant it. He would be there, watching, protecting, waiting for the right moment to fix everything. As she walked away, he touched his chest. His heart was racing. He was in deep, and he knew that whatever happened next, there was no going back. The night air felt cooler now, but Alexander felt a fire within. He had found what he was looking for: unconditional love, or the seeds of it. Now, he just had to make sure he didn't destroy it with the truth. But as fate would have it, the truth was about to be taken out of his hands. The shadows were moving, and betrayal was closer than he thought. Vanessa was not a woman who accepted defeat. The public standoff with the waitress had gnawed at her ego, and she was determined to remove Julie from the picture permanently. Prowling the corridors of the museum, she stumbled upon a restricted office area. The door was ajar. Inside, she saw a jacket thrown over a Chira jacket with a monogram she recognized: AR, Alexander Rhodes. She froze. Her eyes scanned the room and landed on a security monitor showing the mechanic outside. She looked closer. The features were undeniable. The mechanic was Alexander Rhodes. A wicked smile spread across her face. She had discovered his hidden identity. Most people would have rushed to expose him or suck up to him, but Vanessa was cunning. She realized that if she exposed him now, Julie would be the hero who befriended the billionaire in disguise. No, she needed to destroy Julie before the reveal. She needed to make Julie look like a thief, a gold digger who stole from the very man she was pretending to defend. It was a plan of pure malice. She crept into the workshop area, her eyes scanning for something valuable. She spotted a rare, custom-machined carburetor part for the vintage Ferrari Small, incredibly expensive and vital. She wrapped it in a napkin and slipped it into her clutch. Then, she made her way to the staff locker room. It was empty. She found the locker labeled Julie and effortlessly slipped the part inside Julie's bag. It was a seamless frame-up. Vanessa returned to the party, her heart racing with the thrill of the kill. She approached the head of security, a serious man named Thompson. "Excuse me," she said, feigning concern. "I saw one of the waitstaff blonde, one acting very suspiciously near the vintage parts collection. I think I saw her put something in her bag. You might want to check. We wouldn't want Mr. Rhodes' collection compromised. How do you feel about Vanessa right now? Anger, disgust, or shock?" Thompson frowned. "Thank you, ma'am. We take theft very seriously." He radioed his team. Vanessa watched with glee. She was about to orchestrate the ultimate betrayal. She was using Alexander's own security against the woman he was falling for. It was a masterstroke of cruelty. She imagined Julie being dragged out in handcuffs, humiliated and ruined. And Alexander? He would be heartbroken, believing his pure waitress was just another thief. Alexander, meanwhile, was still outside, unaware that his world was about to implode. He was thinking about how to tell Julie the truth, how to bridge the gap between their worlds. He had no idea that the gap was about to become a canyon. Destiny was taking a dark turn. The social experiment had been hijacked by a villain. Vanessa ordered another drink, positioning herself to watch the fireworks. She felt invincible. She had the knowledge, she had the power, and soon she would have the satisfaction of seeing her rival destroyed. It was a chilling reminder that some people are simply broken inside. But she forgot one thing: the truth has a way of rising, just like oil and water. The chaos started with a radio crackle. Alexander saw the security team moving with purpose toward the staff area. His instinct was to follow. He arrived just as Thompson was dumping the contents of Julie's bag onto a table in the break room. Julie stood there, confused and terrified. "I don't understand," she stammered. "I didn't take anything." Then, with a clatter, the rare Ferrari part rolled out onto the table, gleaming under the harsh fluorescent lights. The room went silent. Julie gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. "That's not mine. I've never seen that before." But the evidence was damning. The part was there in her bag. Alexander, watching from the doorway, felt his stomach drop. That part was from the engine he had been working on. It was worth thousands. He looked at Julie, searching her face for guilt. All he saw was panic. But the CEO in him, the man who had been burned by gold digger types before, felt a cold sliver of doubt. "We have a witness who saw you near the parts," Thompson said sternly. "This is grand larceny. Miss Dunn." Julie was crying now, shaking her head. "No, please. I didn't do it. Someone must have put it there." She looked around the room, her eyes landing on Alexander. "Alexander, tell them. You were with me. You know I wouldn't do this." Alexander stepped forward, his heart tearing in two. He wanted to believe her. God, he wanted to believe her. But the evidence... Does physical evidence outweigh intuition? Would you believe her or the proof? Comment below. Alexander started, his voice failing him. He was paralyzed. If he revealed himself now to save her, and she had stolen it, he would look like a fool. And the doubt, the insidious doubt planted by a lifetime of betrayal, it held him back. He stayed silent, his eyes filled with pain. Julie saw his hesitation, and it broke her more than the accusation. The one person she thought trusted her was looking at her with suspicion. "Alexander?" she whispered, her voice cracking. It was a plea for vindication, for belief. But he remained frozen. He was heartbroken, believing the one person he trusted had betrayed him for money. He thought his social experiment had failed in the worst way possible. She had played him. She had used his distraction to steal from him. The cynicism rushed back, drowning out the romance. Thompson took Julie by the arm. "You're coming with us." Julie didn't fight. She slumped, defeated by the weight of a crime she didn't commit. She looked at Alexander one last time, her eyes filled with profound sadness that would haunt him forever. She didn't see anger in his eyes, only a deep, crushing regret. Vanessa watched in the doorway, a shadow of satisfaction. Her plan had worked perfectly. The evidence was falsified convincingly. The wedge was driven. Julie was finished. Alexander was alone again. It was a tragedy of Shakespearean proportions, fueled by a single lie. But the silence of the mechanic was the loudest sound in the room. The scene of Julie being escorted out of the museum was a public spectacle of humiliation. The gala guests stopped their conversations to watch the thief being marched out by security. Whispers rippled through the crowd like wildfire. "The help's stealing again," someone muttered. "Can't trust anyone these days," said another. Julie walked with her head down, tears streaming down her face, burning hot tracks of shame. She had no way to defend herself against the billionaire security machine. She was just a waitress. He was the institution. Vanessa stood near the exit, sipping her drink, a look of faux sympathy plastered on her face. "Such a shame," she said loudly enough for Alexander to hear. She seemed so nice. "Just goes to show, you never really know people." Her words twisted the knife in Alexander's gut. He stood in the shadows, watching Julie being put into a taxi, not a police car, thanks to Thompson's discretion, but fired nonetheless. Her livelihood was gone. Her reputation was shattered. Julie sat in the back of the cab, shivering. She had lost everything in the span of an hour. Her job, her dignity, and the strange, hopeful connection she had felt with Alexander. That hurt the most. He hadn't stood up for her. He had doubted her. She felt foolish for believing in a romance drama ending. Reality was cold and cruel. She was a victim of a game she didn't even know she was playing. Like, if you think the truth always comes out in the end. Back inside, Alexander felt sick. The supercar collection surrounding him suddenly felt like a prison of metal and glass. He looked at his hands, still stained with grease. He felt dirty, but not because of the oil. He felt dirty because he had let fear override his heart. He walked over to the manager. "Make sure she gets her final check," he muttered, his voice devoid of emotion. "And don't press charges." It was a small mercy, a pathetic attempt to assuage his guilt. Vanessa approached him, emboldened by her victory. "You're better off without that kind of drama," she purred, not knowing he was the owner. "Staff like that are just leeches." Alexander looked at her, and for the first time, he saw something truly ugly beneath her makeup. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked away, disappearing into the depths of the museum. He needed to be alone. He needed to think. The night ended in silence. The guests left. The lights dimmed. But the echo of Julie's plea, "Alexander, tell them," bounced around the empty halls. It was a ghost story now, a story of what could have been. Alexander sat in his office, staring at the security screens, rewinding the night in his head. He felt a deep, gnawing sense of regret. He had protected his assets, but he felt like he had lost his soul. Julie went home to an empty apartment and a pile of bills. She cried herself to sleep, wishing she had never met the mechanic with the sad eyes. She didn't know that destiny wasn't done with her yet. The darkest hour is just before the dawn, and the truth was waiting in the garage, hidden in the most unlikely place. Days passed, and the museum felt like a mausoleum to Alexander. He couldn't shake the image of Julie's tear-streaked face. The vintage Ferrari she had admired, the one he was fixing when they met sat unfinished in the bay. He hadn't touched it since that night. It felt cursed. But eventually, the need to work with his hands, to silence his brain, drove him back to the garage. He put on his coveralls, embracing the mechanic persona one last time, perhaps to punish himself. He popped the hood of the Ferrari. The engine stared back at him, complex and silent. He reached in to adjust the carburetor, the very spot where the stolen part belonged. His hand brushed against something paper. He frowned. Tucked deep inside the engine bay, wedged between a hose and a firewall, was a small, folded note. It was grease-stained but legible. He unfolded it with trembling hands. It was written on a napkin, the same type of napkin she had given him. "Alexander," it read in neat, hurried script. "I saw Vanessa looking at the cars earlier. She looked mean. I hid this note here because I didn't know where else to put it. Just in case. Thanks for listening to me. Julie. The timestamp on his memory clicked. She must have hidden this before the accusation, before the theft. The realization hit him like a physical blow. If she had stolen the part, why would she leave a note in the exact spot of crime? And the note mentioned Vanessa. It didn't prove innocence directly, but it proved she was worried about the cars, not stealing them. It was a breadcrumb of truth. It shattered his assumption of her being a gold digger. She was a protector. How would you feel finding this note? Relieved or more guilty? Alexander's heart hammered against his ribs. He had been wrong. Colossally, catastrophically wrong. The regret that had been simmering boiled over into panic. He had let an innocent woman be humiliated and fired because of his own trust issues. He had failed the test of unconditional love. He had judged her when he should have defended her. He grabbed the note and ran to the security room. He needed to see the footage again, not the edited version, not the highlights. He needed to see everything, every angle, every second. He was the CEO, and he was about to unleash the full power of his resources to find the truth. The shocking reveal was coming, and he prayed it wasn't too late to fix the damage. He looked at the note again. Thanks for listening to me. It was a dagger to the heart. She had thanked him for decency, while he was silently accusing her of theft. He crushed the note in his hand, vowing to make it right. Vindication was no longer just for him, it was for her. He would tear the world apart, to clear her name. Alexander stormed into the security room, startling the night guard. Get up, he commanded, his voice ice cold. I need to review the footage from the gala. All cameras, specifically the workshop and the staff locker room. The guard scrambled to comply, sensing the billionaire's fury. Alexander sat down, his eyes glued to the screens. He was no longer a mechanic. He was a predator hunting for the truth. He scrubbed through hours of footage. He saw himself and Julie talking. He saw the water bottle moment. He saw the spark. It was painful to watch, knowing how it ended. Then he found it. Camera 4, a wide angle of the workshop corridor. He saw Vanessa. She wasn't just walking, she was skulking. She looked around, checked the coast, and slipped into the restricted area. Minutes later, she emerged, clutching her purse tightly, a smirk on her face. Alexander switched to the locker room camera. It was grainy, but clear enough. Vanessa entered. The room was empty. She went straight to the bags. She found Julie's distinct worn-out backpack. She pulled something from her purse apart and shoved it into Julie's bag. Betrayal confirmed. It was a setup, a cold, calculated frame-up by a woman whose ego couldn't handle a waitress having more integrity than her. What should Vanessa's punishment be? Fired, sued, or public humiliation? Comment. Alexander slammed his fist on the desk. Got you, he growled. The rage he felt was blinding. He had allowed this snake to poison his life. He had doubted Julie because of this person. The realization of his massive mistake was nauseating. He had betrayed Julie by not trusting her. Vanessa was a villain, yes, but he was the accomplice through his silence. He saved the footage. He made copies. This was a smoking gun. Karma was about to be served cold. But first, he had to find Julie. He had to beg. He had to grovel. He had to show her that he wasn't just a rich guy who played dress-up. He was a man who could admit when he was wrong. He picked up his phone and dialed his private investigator. Find Julie Dunn, he ordered. I don't care what it costs. Find her now, and find out where she's working. He wasn't going to send a lawyer. He wasn't going to send a check. He was going to go himself. He was going to finish the romance drama on his terms. The footage played on a loop on the screen. Vanessa planting the evidence. It was a testament to human cruelty, but it was also the key to vindication. Alexander looked at the screen one last time, his eyes hardening. Vanessa was done. But Julie? Julie was just beginning. He would make sure of it. The investigator found her in less than an hour. Julie was working at a rundown diner on the edge of town, washing dishes. It was a steep fall from the high-end gala, but she was doing what she had to do to survive. Alexander didn't waste a second. He went to his closet and bypassed the coveralls. This time, he chose his finest bespoke suit, a charcoal gray armor of power and respect. He wasn't hiding anymore. He walked into his garage and walked past the daily drivers. He went straight to the supercar collection and pulled the cover off his rarest vintage Ferrari, the one he had been fixing that night. It was ready. It roared to life, a beast of Italian engineering that screamed wealth and passion. He drove it out of the museum, the engine purring like a lion. He was driving to her, not as a mechanic, but as the man she deserved. He pulled up to the diner, the Ferrari looking like a spaceship in the cracked parking lot. Heads turned. People stopped eating to stare. Alexander stepped out, looking like he just walked off a magazine cover. He adjusted his cuffs, took a deep breath, and walked through the door. The smell of grease here was different, stale, old. It reminded him of the injustice she was living. Like if you believe the apology should be as loud as the disrespect. He spotted her immediately. She was in the back, visible through the service window, scrubbing a pot, her hair tied back in a messy bun. She looked tired, defeated. Alexander felt a lump in his throat. He walked straight to the kitchen doors. The manager tried to stop him. "Hey, you can't go back there." Alexander didn't even slow down. "I'm buying the place if you don't move," he said calmly. The manager froze. Alexander pushed through the doors. The kitchen went silent. Julie turned around, wiping her hands on her apron. When she saw him, the suit, the grooming, the aura of power, she dropped the rag. Confusion washed over her face. "Alexander?" she whispered. But this wasn't the Alexander she knew. This was Alexander Rhodes. The shocking reveal was happening right next to the deep fryer. "Julie," he said, his voice trembling slightly, "we need to talk." He didn't care about the other cooks staring. He didn't care about the grease on the floor. He only cared about the woman standing in front of him. He was there to bridge the gap between the billionaire and the dishwasher. He was there to expose the hidden identity and lay his heart on the line. Julie stared at him, processing the suit, the confidence. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "I'm the man who made a terrible mistake," he replied, "and I'm here to fix it." The air crackled with tension. Destiny had brought them back together, but it was up to him to keep them there. Alexander led Julie out of the kitchen and into the diner proper. The entire room watched in stunned silence. He stopped in the center of the room, turning to face her. "Julie, I'm Alexander Rhodes. I own the museum. I own the cars. And I was a mechanic you defended." Gasps rippled through the diner. Julie's eyes went wide, shock warm with betrayal. You lied to me?" "I hid," he corrected gently. "I want to know if anyone would see me for me. And you did. You were the only one." He pulled out his tablet and held it up. "But I failed you when it mattered. I'm sorry." He pressed play on the video. The footage of Vanessa planting the stolen part played clearly for Julie and everyone nearby to see. "You were framed, Julie. Vanessa planted the part. You are innocent." Julie watched the video, tears welling up in her eyes. The relief was overwhelming. Vindication washed over her like a tidal wave. She wasn't crazy. She wasn't a thief. She did that. "To me?" Julie whispered. "Because I stood up to her?" Alexander nodded. "She did. And she's been banned from all my properties and is facing charges as we speak. But that doesn't fix what I did. I doubted you. I let you walk away. If you were Julie, would you forgive him now? Yes or no?" Alexander dropped to one knee, right there on the sticky diner floor in his $1,000 suit. "I am begging for your forgiveness," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Not as a billionaire, but as a man who learned what integrity looks like from you. I was wrong. You are the most honorable person I've ever met." It was a gesture of ultimate humility. The CEO bowing to waitress. "Don't judge me by my money," he was saying, "judge me by my apology." The diner patrons started clapping slowly. It was like a movie scene, but the emotion on Julie's face was raw and real. She looked at the man kneeling before her. She saw the mechanic she had bonded with, now stripped of his disguise but wearing his heart on his sleeve. She realized that his deception wasn't malicious, it was a shield, and he had lowered it for her. "Get up, Alexander," she said softly, wiping a tear. He stood, looking terrified. "You're an idiot," she laughed through her tears. "A rich, stupid idiot." Alexander cracked a smile. Guilty. But, she continued, you came back. You fixed it. That counts. She had accepted his apology, not for his money, but for his sincerity. The true worth of the moment wasn't the Ferrari outside, it was the forgiveness inside. The social experiment was over. The real relationship was beginning. The diner erupted in cheers as Alexander took Julie's hand. He led her out into the sunlight, towards the waiting vintage Ferrari. Julie stopped, looking at the car she had admired from a distance, the car he had been fixing when they first met. Is this the one? She asked. The one with the leak? Alexander grinned, opening the passenger door for her. The very same. And thanks to you, I found the leak. It was in my judgment. Julie slid into the leather seat, the smell of vintage luxury wrapping around her. It was a long way from the bus she usually took. Alexander got into the driver's seat, firing up the engine. The roar was a symphony of victory. Where to? He asked. Julie looked at him, her eyes sparkling. Anywhere but here. And maybe engineering school? Alexander laughed, a sound of pure joy. Consider it done. Scholarship for life. He shifted gears, and the car lurched forward, leaving the diner and the bad memories in the dust. They drove off down the highway, the wind in their hair, two people from different worlds who had found a common language in the unlikeliest of places. Unconditional love had survived a lie and blossomed into something real. Did the money facilitate the happy ending, or just speed up what already existed? Comment your opinion. As they sped towards the horizon, Alexander looked over at Julie. She wasn't looking at the expensive dashboard. She was looking at him. He realized he had found the rarest treasure of all. Not a car, not a deal, but a partner. The gold digger trap had caught a diamond. Destiny had played its hand perfectly. Vanessa was facing legal battles. The manager who fired Julie was looking for a new job. And Julie? She was about to design the engine she had always dreamed of. Karma had come full circle. The good were rewarded, the bad were punished, and the mechanic got the girl. You know, Julie shouted over the wind, "You're still a terrible mechanic. You missed a spot on the hood." Alexander laughed, clutching the steering wheel of his beloved Ferrari. "I guess I'll need a good engineer to supervise me then." They drove into sunset, the romance drama concluding not with fade to black, but with the beginning of a new adventure, a journey fueled by trust, forgiveness, and the purr of a V12 engine. Don't judge the journey by the bumps in the road. Judge it by who is sitting in the passenger seat. Alexander and Julie's story leaves us with a powerful truth: money can buy the finest Ferrari, but it cannot buy class. The dirt on a mechanic's hands washes off easily, but the stain of a cruel heart lasts forever. If you also believe that integrity is the only status symbol that truly matters, then you have found your home. Subscribe now and join our community, a place where we celebrate the content of character over the balance of a bank account. Let's make some noise together. Hit the like button to help us spread this message of kindness to a world that desperately needs it. Comment below, have you ever been judged by your appearance or job? Share your story, we want to hear from you. And share this video with a friend who needs a reminder that true worth is often hidden in plain sight. And while you're here, don't let the inspiration end. Our channel is a treasure chest filled with emotional journeys and shocking reveals just like this one. Explore our older videos. There are countless hidden gems waiting to be discovered. But don't get too comfortable, because we are just getting started. To ensure you don't miss the incredible stories, we have coming up stories that will challenge your perspective and touch your heart. Turn on that notification bell right now. You won't want to be left out of the next emotional adventure.